of the states in the union, the cradle of liberty in Connecticut, is really in trouble. And we've got the guy to talk to about that. Dan Miressi is a candidate in the 4th district, so I'm going to bring him on now. Dan, thank you for joining me this morning, man.
Hey, thanks for having me, Todd. I like
Yeah.
that, the cradle of liberty. I mean, do I mind if I steal that?
Yeah, no, man, go ahead. I have a project one of these days to write some coffee table books about all the battles like down in Ridgefield and, the landing on Campo Beach and Westport and all of that back in the day during the Revolution. So anyway, I worked on a campaign on CT-4 about 20 years ago, and Connecticut was completely different then, back when I was living in the state. And now there's no congressman or federal officials at all in the Republican Party. So tell us why you're running. What's generated this interest?
Well, I started a few years ago. I got involved when I moved back home from hockey career and all that stuff. Found a great fiance, and we're trying to restart our life in Connecticut because this is where I grew up. I'm a Fairfield County guy. I'm a Monroe kid. Went to Trumbull High. Born in Norwalk. Long story short, we were living down in South Norwalk, historic South Norwalk, and we're in one of these East Berlin apartments, trying to save, trying to, scrap together anything to try to move our life forward, to try to not even ask for much, just buy a house in Norwalk, which is over $600,000 now, which is ridiculous if you know your return on investment on that.
Right.
And just with the politics of Connecticut, and this is at the time during COVID with the vaccine madness, and believe it or not, I was working at the post office.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't know this, and it's very funny. It all adds into Republicans just not being able to see the forest through the trees. The vaccine was not mandated in the post office, and it was lucky. I never got vaxxed, thank God. And it was not mandated because I worked at the Fairfield post office. Most of the people who work as carriers, as clerks, they're Black, Latino, and they didn't want anything to do with the vaccine because they have seen what medical mandates and, certain things have done to their communities. So anyway, I tried to get involved locally with Bob Stefanowski with this campaign because from the CT GOP turtles all the way down, there's no messaging, there's nothing for anybody under 40.
Yeah.
And because I guess I'm such a precocious guy, I ended up getting the state Senate nomination against Beta Bob Duff, and we went all the way. We won Darien, and I got into the game, and I realized, man, I can't get out.
Yeah.
And I didn't really know what to do. The state party's kind of, Ben Proto is I think a feckless leader, and he kind of boxed me out, and certain the rhinos boxed me out of the GOP. So I tried to run last campaign in 24 as a candidate, and I think that was a little bit out of hubris, trying to keep my name alive, trying to figure out my voice. But this time going around, it really is all about trying to bring back the lifestyle, the life that I grew up with.
Yeah.
My politics is pretty simple. If you can't buy a home, obviously with working hard and doing everything, you can't buy a home in the town you grew up in. That's a fundamental failure of government on both sides of the aisle. And I don't think that our district, Connecticut, is a radical blue district. It's very purple. I think most people in this district just want to be able to have, like, as you said, the cradle of liberty again, and be decoupled from government and be able to pursue their happiness and do it with some Connecticut conservative policy approaches. And our representatives here, like Jim Himes and Chris Murphy and Dick Blumenthal on a national level, you were just talking about Ukraine. They care way more about the interests of Ukraine or the interests of the Democrat Party or the interests of taxing you than they do about advancing American principles. And really what I care about most is prosperity.
I don't think most Connecticut citizens realize that Connecticut's the most infiltrated state in the union, as far as literally card-carrying communists who hold a lot of these positions. And you see all this indivisible action, which is, a George Soros operation across the country, but it's really deep in Connecticut. You see all the anti-ICE stuff. I mean, how do you figure you're going to combat that? I mean, what's your game plan?
With the communists or ICE, which one do you want to go first?
No, I mean, all of the above. I mean,
Well,
how
I think I'm
it's
going to
crescendo, right?
you want to know how you combat it? You combat
Yeah.
it with everything from our founders all the way to what has been going on now. I combat all that stuff with just Americanism and a smile.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, if you talk to I'm a hockey coach, so I'm around the locker room. I'm around parents, kids of all different socioeconomic backgrounds. And this is the one great trick I think the Democrats in Connecticut have pulled on everyone is they pretend that the crazy 10% of people who actually are radical, they pretend that that is the normal politics of the day. They
Right.
pretend that they frame everything in that argument and they try to push the conversation. They try to use language to scare people to try to, drum up. I mean, it's very simple. It's the same thing with the Trump Hitler stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, in my opinion, I think it's lazy. I think it's low IQ, and I don't think it's what people want to hear. I know that especially now with the economic burdens that people are facing in Connecticut, New England as a whole is running behind the rest of the country. We're basically living in our own country right now. I know Mr. Trump's president. I voted for him 3 times, and I think he's doing the best that he can. But
Mm-hmm.
people aren't feeling it in New England.
Yeah.
This isn't really a MAGA fight. This is
Right.
a fight for nutmeggers. This is a fight for New England to reestablish and to push it. And to be honest, the Democrats, they think they have us on hold because we don't have a representative. And I think Republicans can get creative and we can actually go into the cities and the people in Bridgeport, which is what I plan to do. And I don't mean that in in showing face to them. I mean it like really walking the streets, really talking to people, really trying to build a coalition in New England. No one's tried to build a coalition of normal people, a coalition of people who just I call it cul-de-sac conservatism.
Yeah.
That's a little different than national conservatism, which we do align in, but we're still Connecticut, we're still New England, and I think we have to take a unique fight to the left, and that fight is listen. We're classical liberals in a lot of sense. Our day to day, our town square, even our taxes. We live in Fairfield County. I like paying a reasonable property tax to have a nice school, to have a nice street. That is what Jeffersonian liberty and everything is all about. However, when you have people trying to steal your property taxes, basically unrealized gains taken from you, when you have the Democrats flooding Connecticut, I mean, there's greater than 150,000 illegal aliens here. Right now we have a Medicare share of 55% spending because the budget's busted and we're just dining out on Fed grants. I mean, it's a pure kleptocracy here in Connecticut.
Yes. Totally.
And they use the federal government. They use all these tertiary issues as a cudgel to advance their agenda, and that's really what we're facing. And I think people are sick of it, to be honest.
So you're a hockey coach. I didn't realize that. So that's
yeah.
kind of an interesting, I guess, crowd you already got around you that you can relate to that most politicians won't have. Maybe a base of support. I mean, and you'd be able to relate to the working guy, the mother that just brings her kid to the hockey rink every night and may not have heard a lot of this stuff. Are you going to use that angle or try to,
absolutely. And we already have filled. So you asked about another thing. I think that the CT GOP, I think we have a lot of good candidates, and I'm a team guy. At the end of the day, whoever gets the nominations across all the ballots, I will vote for a broomstick over a Bolshevik any day of the week. Republican down the line, and I encourage everyone to do the same. We have to be united in the front. That being said, I think that Republicans
I'm going to steal that one from you, a broomstick over a Bolshevik.
Oh, there we go. Now we're traded. I like this. We're trading phrases. Good. Put it in the coffee table book.
Yeah, definitely.
But I think that the biggest failure of the GOP is not using. We're never going to outspend the Democrats here in this state. They have an absolute, barrel of money, which is fine. We live in an exciting time, I think, because it's a social media time. It's a time where your public profile is your LinkedIn. It is your brand, right? And the hockey rink coaching, that's not a brand. That's who I am. And I think politics is people.
Yeah.
And we don't have time, and we don't need politicians to talk to us. Of course, I believe in lower government. Of course, I believe in cutting taxes, all that good stuff. But what I believe in more than anything is action, and actually talking to people and getting everyone to realize that Republicans are not the enemy. We're
Mm.
not, we actually are the people who you show up at the rink with, who you go to Little League games with, who you invited over to your Super Bowl parties. Sure, is there a little bit of, digression with, maybe I'm not in this basket of Trump, or maybe, I'm more like, I'm a Rand Paul guy or libertarian, whatever it is. The beauty of us is that we're actually a bunch of different thinking people who all kind of want the same thing, want the same Connecticut life.
Hmm.
And to me, I think we need to realize that our base, our coalition is the family, is the community, is the economy, which is why that is my platform. And it is my platform because I think Republicans try to get overcomplicated with explaining away what they're going to do, where Democrats are in very simple terms. If you like your family to have the best possible apparatchiks for success, that includes good schools, that includes good hospitals and all the stuff we like. If you
Hmm.
want a community to have cohesiveness and American culture, no crime, people who could talk to their neighbors, speak English, and just have a neighborly life again. And if you want an economy that works for you to pursue your happiness, whether it's a small business, whether you can have companies come here, that's one of the biggest tragedies I find in Connecticut. Is we used to have the number one economy in the country, and I'm pretty sure you would know better than me. 98, 97, we were cruising, and
Yeah.
now I walk around. I mean, I walk around and I drive around. I walk around Norwalk. I drive around Bridgeport, all these different rinks. All I see is dilapidated buildings of what we used to be.
Your government doesn't care about you. That's why you need a medical emergency kit. It contains life-saving medications like ivermectin, Z-Pak, and antibiotics. Stock them before they block them.
For the first time ever, we're bringing you My Pillow mattresses and mattress toppers for as low as $99.98. Remember, sleep's all about temperature and pressure points. Whatever sleep needs you have, we have the right technology for you. Like our My Pillow mattress topper, our queen size has over 10,000 individual comfort supports to help relieve your pressure points. And how about our 3-inch Hybrid Plus mattress topper? It's infused with copper and silver to help your body get the restorative sleep it needs. And our My Pillow and Case Coil mattresses, I personally helped develop these mattresses to make sure they have everything needed to give us great sleep. Plus, they're made right here in the USA, and they ship right to your front door absolutely free. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use this promo code to get MyPillow mattresses and toppers for as low as $99.98 and free shipping.
So much potential. I mean, you have this beautiful shoreline, and then you go to Bridgeport, and you're like, oh, I mean, they're trying a little bit, I guess, but I mean, there's so much. This could be so different and so prosperous.
And to tie it in is you talked about what I think is different. I know I'd be one lowly congressman,
Hmm.
but I want to change the conversation.
Hmm.
I want to get creative. There, like a couple things here. You want to talk about Bridgeport.
Hmm.
We're talking about right now. We're dealing with a geopolitical issue with Taiwan. I mean,
Hmm.
everyone knows it. China's on the move. That's what a lot has to do with Greenland. That's what has to do is, and all these Republicans who think we're still living in this World War II mythology. It's over. It's
Yeah.
2026. The
Yeah.
world is realigning. There's
Yeah.
American interests and there's Chinese interests, and whoever wants to join those teams is our friend. And I'm a big, bilateral guy.
Totally.
If
Yeah.
you're on our side, you're on our side. If you're not, okay, I'm not your enemy, but I remember.
Don't expect the freebies and the trade deals. you
Correct.
know.
So, you look at Taiwan, and of course I support any country's freedom, and I want those people not to be taken over by, Chinese communists. But at the end of the day, I'm tired of having that conversation. We have you go to Harbor Yard, the Bridgeport Sound Tide, well, the Bridgeport
Mhm.
Islanders now, they're moving to Canada. They're going to Hamilton because there's no community there. There's no thriving. I remember going there as a kid the first year, Rick DiPietro in net. It was a sellout building. They went to the play. It was awesome. It was so cool. I'll never forget like how, birthday parties, when I was in grade school, people would have there. The same with the Bridgeport Bluefish.
Mm-hmm.
So what does that all have to do with Taiwan? There's no jobs. There's no chance at succeeding there right now. If you drive down certain areas in Bridgeport, you can feel the hopelessness. Why aren't we trying to figure out how to revive Connecticut manufacturing? Why can't we build chips in Connecticut? I hear all about the education that we have, and we do. We have great education. We got technical schools. I went to BOAG myself. We got UConn. We got Yale. We got WestCon. Why ASML is even down the road in Norwalk? Why can't we start trying to invest in that and figure out ways to do that? Why can't we start inviting Amazon and some of these other companies? Pharmaceuticals, you want to talk about China? Pharmaceuticals, they make about, I think, 85 to 90% of our generics, our vitamins. I don't know. That doesn't seem good to me.
Yeah.
Why can't we have Centrum Vitamin Shop, building, down in Shelton? We used to have you see all those buildings where they used to make shoes and this and that. Those things can be repurposed. We can get creative. We can change the conversation. Same thing with these buildings, these communist buildings that they're doing.
Well, you drive through a lot of these cities. I mean, I've been around Connecticut a bunch over the last couple decades, and you see all the hollowed out factories. And Connecticut's become essentially a few hedge funds and a lot of pizza shops. I mean, there's nothing left. And you're right.
And they leave for the serfs. This is what's so sinister about the Democrats. It's every corner. It's a smoke shop.
Yes.
Or a DraftKings or gambling. And I'm not saying, I'm actually pretty libertarian when it comes to that stuff. I'm a younger guy. That being said, that is not a lifestyle. That is purgatory. That is just.
I would say it's predatory. I mean, the smoke shops.
Predatory and purgatory. They just want people to slowly move over to government assistance.
Mm-hmm.
And, again, I live in one of these, Stalinist apartment buildings. And Mr. Trump came out and I'm not sure if he signed anything or moved the football, but do you remember which is a great thing, banning private equity or getting on private equity from buying single family homes?
Yes.
Which people don't realize is one of the biggest barriers to owning home for young people like us, people under 40 who can't buy in Connecticut, is just the entry level. We have a regulation, red tape, and taxes issue in Connecticut where we can't build dwellings or build baby builds. That being said, these apartment buildings, I think what a lot of people don't realize in Connecticut is that this is a national agenda. This goes all the way back to Obama in Westchester in 2010. And, and I even was I was just out of high school, wasn't really paying attention to politics, just listening to guys like Michael Savage and Rush Limbaugh while I was driving to hockey practice. And I remember hearing this stuff and I remember thinking like, that's interesting. And now you look 15 years later and every corner in CT-4, you see one of these buildings, $2,500 a month in rent. The rest of it gets subsidized. And who are they for? Housing follows payrolls. There are no jobs.
Yeah.
And I think Republicans, instead of hiding behind the free market, should try to advance language and legislation that says, hey, I'm all for, towns and states and everyone protecting their own zoning, which they don't do here in Connecticut. But there needs to be a watchdog. I'm pretty sure if Thomas Jefferson was president and he saw some conglomerate running around the colonies, building apartments, renting the town out, I'm pretty sure that he would be like, I don't think this is what I had in mind when I was talking about, American liberty.
Well, you've got the zoning issue too. I mean, the state's taking over the zoning and destroying the towns and building these monstrosities, as you say, Stalinist. I've never thought of it that way. That's exactly it. And you go around, I travel a lot, and a lot of these Airbnbs, they buy up these places, private equity, and that's a thing. I mean, they're buying up homes, they're buying up apartments, and it's owned by a company, and some of them are in China, for God's sake,
Yeah.
So it's wild.
And something, like I said, I'm not necessarily saying I have all the answers. However, I think if I can get down to DC and speak for my generation and for Connecticut and nutmeggers and for everyone, being like, listen, this isn't the way forward. This isn't what we want to do. This isn't the American contract we signed with citizens. And I think that we have to take things a step further. One thing I really admire the Democrats at is when they have power, they know how to use it. The problem is when they have power, they want to use it to abuse you.
Yes.
You know, Republicans, I said this to someone the other day I was talking to. We have to get comfortable with using government to break government. Sometimes the only way out is through. You know, I say that to my kids when I'm playing. You know, sometimes the puck's not bouncing your way. You just got to lean until they break. And we have to do the same thing as representatives and not, you know, bow down to all this fake language that they use. Like, oh, we're just trying to make things affordable, so you're going to rent for the rest of your life. How does that work, you know?
Yeah, no kidding. So let's talk about the GOP in Connecticut. You know, we have the Connecticut Sentinel. It's been really impactful in the state. It's really the only conservative.
My favorite paper.
Credible paper out there on our side of the fence. But, you know, so we've rubbed up against multiple campaigns over the years. And is the Connecticut GOP, is it just controlled opposition? I mean, what's it there for? I mean, is it working for you? I mean, I don't want you to bash the party because you need them, but how do you fix what's going on with the GOP?
I have no love for Ben Porco. That's a very public thing. So, and to me, I don't besmirch anyone other than him because, I mean, he's the leader. You know, there's a saying in sports, you know, the Giants just got John Harbaugh as their coach. And one of the things that they're excited about is that they want the team to take on the personality of their coach. And I think the CT GOP has taken on the personality of Ben Proto, which is just a slob, just someone who doesn't care, who's apathetic about the interests, who appreciates the status quo. And I think you see this on a national level as well. And to me, I refer back to one of my favorite movies, Casino, and, you know, De Niro. You're either in on it or you too stupid to notice. Either way, you're out.
Yeah.
And that is what I feel about it. To me, the CTGOP has to change its complete operating mechanisms. Is we don't go into cities. We don't actually hold RTCs because the whole RTC system is crazy and antiquated. Like I know in Norwalk, you know, I've had my problems because you have all these RTCs broken up and they're run by people who are professional organizers who a lot of them don't have have too much free time, and this is their social life.
So let me jump in there because this is a national global audience. An RTC, Republican Town Committee, Connecticut has no free county land. It's all towns, and the town infrastructure runs, and that's what you're talking about.
Yeah, so 169 towns. So for example, in CT-4, I have to go to 17 individual RTCs to court them for delegates, you know, before you get to the convention, just so your audience gets an idea. And there's no reciprocal network. There is no standards of how many guys did you recruit? How many, you know, did you send out? Are you holding events? There's no sharing of resources. There's no communication. Every RTC, every town thinks they're their own little country. Some towns are running candidates from like 1992 Republican platforms. And then, you know, and then other towns are just blatantly running like Democrat, like Tony Wong, you know, in Fairfield, who's basically an Obama Democrat.
Yeah, it's a problem.
This is a special report.
Knowing how to invest your money is harder than ever before. Dealing with stock market volatility, record debt, and terrorist attacks requires new thinking. At U.S. Asset Management, we can help you see the world more clearly so that you can move beyond the chaos and invest with confidence. Call us, visit us online, or drop by our office. U.S. Asset Management, helping you make better decisions with your money.
Welcome here at the National Press Club. Welcome to the journalists, welcome to the Embra team, and welcome to the other guests that we have here. I'm going to announce, and as some of you guessed it right when they came in, the first E2 order by an American operator. And that operator is Avello. We believe this is really a strategic shift to unlock profitability for the customer. I'm very pleased that we have Andrew Levy here as the CEO of Avello, and I'm very pleased to give the stage to share a little bit more about what Avello is going to do with the E2 195. Thank you very much.
Couldn't be more excited to be here as part of this historic announcement. We have such a great cultural fit as companies, so we're very, very excited to be Embraer's newest customer. We launched our airline in April of 21, And our target is focusing on small secondary airports of large metro areas. We've carried over 8 million customers since we started on 63,000 flights. And we've done all these things with 1,200 of the greatest crew members I could ever imagine having, and many of them are here with me today. This is the right airplane for us. It's going to open up opportunities for us that no other aircraft can serve. The best thing about the airplane, of course, is you will not find a middle seat on this airplane. It doesn't exist. We won't have any to offer. It's going to be the best cabin in the United States, and we're so excited about that. This is going to elevate our experience to the highest level, and we think our customers are absolutely going to love the airplane.
Can you get a fair election in Connecticut, do you think?
I think that you can get a fair election because I think that the people have caught up to it. I think that everyone is very hyper aware. That's one thing I do believe that the Trump administration in this second term has really woke the alarm bells for, is that people are finally being hyper aware of election integrity. And in Connecticut, I think that every day of the campaign, we have to, from all campaigns, everyone who's running has to make it an issue and has to put in the right apparatuses in place so we are prepared on election day. And then even after, you know, we have to get used to being uncomfortable and not, you know, necessarily conceding right away and doing all that, you know, even if we can't get through. And this goes back to the central theme of my campaign, why I'm running and everything. We have to start building a voice together. I read something last night about New Hampshire, and I actually was a New Hampshire guy. I went to camp up there. My parents used to have a place up in Lake Ossipee. 20 years ago, New Hampshire was as blue as they could come. You had Massachusetts people coming over the border and everything. And the Republican Party, the GOP there, decided to put on their hard hats, grab their lunch pails, and actually start to build a coalition. It took 20 years. It did. But now look at them. I mean, New Hampshire is becoming Texas of the East. You know,
well, I spoke with someone from Massachusetts who I love, but they're wildly liberal. And she said, yeah, those people in New Hampshire have become weirdly conservative. I said, yeah, that's interesting. Interesting way to put it, you know.
But you know, I know those people. It's not, a lot of them are hockey guys that I still come down to quote, it has nothing to do, this is what Republicans don't understand. It has nothing to do with like, oh, they got really Republican. Oh, they're all, you know, crazy right wingers now. No, they're not. We've lived through, my entire lifetime has been Democrats in Connecticut. And ironically, I learned this growing up later, is Connecticut was benefited from decades of Republicanism.
Yeah.
And now it's running out. Now, as Margaret Thatcher,
like the Reagan syndrome, you know, Reagan comes in, fixes everything, and then we have Democrats living off of it for the next 20 years.
Yeah, and as Margaret Thatcher said, you run out of other people's money to spend. So, like in New Hampshire, like in here, it's not anything radical. It's the policy. Eventually, you get tired of being taxed to death. Eventually, you get tired of having illegal immigrants being flooded in your communities. Eventually, you get tired. You know, one of the issues here in Norwalk, which again is all tied to federal, there's something, I think, more than 20,000 ESL students in Norwalk.
Yeah.
Up to 35 languages spoken in the school. And this is something they brag about.
Yeah.
Now listen, I feel bad for every kid. It's not the kid's fault. It's not the kid's fault. However, it's unsustainable.
Yep.
And they use this and they try to siphon federal dollars to keep, you know, covering up the petty cash of what they're using, like this rainy day fund they talk about in Connecticut. It's raining now. I don't see anything.
Yeah.
And you know, and I'm not opposed to a little bit of government to, you know, spend and to fix things. Like, my biggest thing when it comes to like policy, and people ask like, oh, well, Dan, you're a congressman. What can you do to like even help the economy and anything? I mean, what I could do is sound the alarm, number one, try to hopefully push people in the right direction. However, I'll ask you, why isn't an LNG pipeline and nuclear energy, why isn't this a matter of national security?
Totally agree. I mean, I think it is, but there's obviously a huge pushback from the the communist governments. I mean, in Connecticut and
Correct. It's
elsewhere.
correct. So again, like, and this is where I think Republicans have to all work together and team together from a state, local, and federal level. Is if I get down in DC, I mean, I will try through hell and high water to make this a point, not just for New England, but for all regions, that if we want back to the China and the new American interest, if we want to compete with China, if we want to have an economy going into the 21st century with AI data centers, with just the way everything's going, we have to adapt our energy. Energy is your economy. If you don't, everything you touch needs petroleum product, needs something. Even those stupid windmills that are killing whales and birds. So just like how trains are nationalized for security reasons, I think that we have to really get serious about our energy infrastructure. And if we need the federal government to usurp Little Ned Lamont and Maura Healey and Hochul, that crazy cat lady up there, then we have to do it. We have to do it, as opposed to, I'm sick and tired of watching Newsom and Gretchen Whitmore and all these people and AOC over in Munich. What is she doing there? I'm sick and tired of all these people leading the conversation when there's solutions on the table, which we can drive back, including in blue areas like New England, breaking the blue wall.
So last question, what are your top 3 things or areas that you want to focus on as a congressman?
To me, it is the economy first. I do think it's the economy stupid, especially in Connecticut. Like I said, I think New England is behind on the rest of the world. I mean, the rest of the country. The second thing I want to focus on more is I like to boil it down to Americanism. Bringing back Americanism into our legislation, looking at things through a 21st century lens, and actually trying to focus on real solutions for that don't have to be left. Like a thing like student loans. I understand you took out a loan, you have to pay it back, but it was a Ponzi scheme all the way down. So, we can zero out the interest. We can have you pay 10 cents on the dollar, get off the books, and get government out of it. There are ways to help people without being, a leftist. And we can do that through looking at things and legislation through an American way. And the third thing is I want to build a Republican coalition for Connecticut.
Wow.
I think that is the most important thing. My campaign motto is not left, not right, just forward. And that doesn't mean that I'm not a Republican. That just means that I don't care about what you want to label. What I care about is building a coalition of people who care about Connecticut, care about the Constitution, and care about our country. I think New England and Connecticut, I think we're some of the most patriotic people in the entire nation. But I think that a lot of what we've been missing is we haven't been authentically ourselves. We're not actually, we have very good, horse farms and stuff here, but we're not Texas, rodeo riding flags around. We have ATVs in our, in pathways. We have, preppy schools. Like, we're very diverse, very different. And all of those things, it's just a different form of New England patriotism and New England nationalism. And to me, that is the coalition that I want to bring. New England nationalism, bring it to DC. There's not one person in DC from our region who speaks what the average Connecticut nutmegger wants and feels. And to me, that is my most important duty as a congressman. And if I have to just stand there every day and talk about Connecticut, I will, for sure, and tell them all the things that Lamont and the Democrats are doing, because I'll finish it off like what I said before. Sometimes the only way to make change is to get in the arena and to just fight. And, and I'd be, as a hockey guy, I'd rather be in the game and try my best, even if I get knocked out, than never play at all. And I think that most of the people feel that way. And I hope they get behind me and we can maybe do something really cool, really big here.
Well, that's really important what you're talking about, because I believe Connecticut was New England was targeted as because it is the cradle of liberty. This whole area, this is what they came after first, and they've been very successful in just trying to destroy it. So it's important to bring that back, and we want to help. We want to follow your campaign and have you back down the road and try to get out your message. So thank you for coming on this morning, Dan.
Thank you for having me. It was awesome. It was very cool, and hope to be on again.
All right, take care. We'll see you down the road.